What is going on, everybody, and welcome back, our YouTube fishing family, to the channel. Today I have got something brand new to this channel. We have not done this before, but ice season is getting very close here in the Midwest. The temperatures in Iowa obviously aren't good enough yet for ice fishing, but we're starting to get some snow up north in the Minnesota. They're starting to get some snow and a lot cooler temperatures, so it is just around the corner, probably another month and a half here for us. So you guys know me. As soon as those upper lakes start freezing over, we are going to be traveling up through Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and eventually here in Iowa as well. But as soon as those lakes start locking up, I get that itch and we start heading north to do some fishing. So if you guys are new here, I hope you will consider subscribing and giving this video a like. Ice fishing is really my time of the year. That is where I am doing a ton of my own fishing. We run our tournaments all through the spring and summer. But ice fishing is really something that I have started looking forward to a lot since moving north from Kansas. And today's video is kind of in line with that. So as the weather here in Iowa changes, this kind of presents an opportunity where we have this little bit of time to kind of explore something new. You know, I'm trying to get the boat cleaned up and ready for the Bass Nation Opens, but ice fishing isn't quite here. So this really presents an opportunity of time where I can dive into something new for me, kind of advance some of my skills, learn something new, and I love the opportunities to do that. And as I was thinking about ice season and kind of what we need, you know, I'm not switching ice shacks this year. I love the ice shacks. I love the setups I have. We did have that rod sponsor change, so I am looking at buying some new ice rods and things of that nature too. But it was one of those opportunities like, you know what? I can try making my own rods again. So I have done this once before. I was able to attend a 2-day class with a master rod builder. We did this for our high school students a few years ago where we brought down Chris Christofek, who owns and operates Lake Lady Custom Rods. And so he and a friend of his came down and offered a class to us personally. It was just a small group of us where we got to build our own spinning rods or bait casters with him. And I built a rod for my dad, so the one that I ended up building I gave away. But in that 2 days, it was a really fun experience. We learned a lot. And I kind of wanted to bring that back, but I didn't have any of the equipment that is really needed to make rods successfully. So I went out and did a little bit of research and stumbled upon Mudhole, which, you know, is one of those places that a lot of you are probably familiar with, but I haven't been building a lot of my own stuff. So it was kind of new to me. So I went through the whole website, absolutely loved all this kind of stuff, put a whole bunch of crap in my cart that I thought I needed, and then I stumbled upon their kits. So what I ended up buying was the all-in-one ice rod kit. I'm looking down here to make sure I got the name right, but it's the all-in-one ice rod kit, and it comes with essentially everything you need to get started. And the price point really wasn't even that bad either. I think right now they're on sale for like $190 or something like that, but it really does include everything that gets you started, and then you'll be able to go off and just buy whatever components, equipment that you need. But some of the main pieces are going to last you years and years. So that is what I bought, and I thought I'd show you guys today kind of what is in it, and then we're going to get started. We're going to start a rod today. My hope is that by the end of today, we're going to essentially have like the grip, the handle, the reel seat, all that stuff on the rod that has to dry for a little while, and then we'll kind of progress. So this will be a series, and so like I said, if this does interest you, or if you guys are into ice fishing and the fishing in general, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps me out. Then you'll catch all of our fishing adventures as we are able to get out on the ice here within hopefully the next couple of months. So what came in this kit? Well, first off is the advanced hand wrapping system. So this is a 2-spool thread wrapper that you obviously lie your blanks across when you put your guides on and you do all of your thread wrapping, but it has like the tension settings and everything else that really kind of makes this stand out to me. And I did want the 2 spools. I didn't want a single spool I had to switch out. I wanted to be able to do a couple colors as I went through. So I had already put this in my cart, but it came in the kit, so it was awesome. I do believe that this kit is really handy. Not a sponsor, so all of this stuff came straight out of my pocket. It came with a rod dryer, which is obviously important as well. So making sure that this thing dries properly. And as you put that thread binding. What's that stuff called? Thread finish. Nice. Not a fancy term apparently, but as you put that thread finish on and you get all of your guides wrapped and everything's glued, epoxy down, whatever it's actually considered, throw this onto the drying system and it will start turning, and it turns at a rate of 9 rotations per minute and really helps kind of give that even nice finish all the way around that rod. And with that, it also came with the alcohol burner. So using this to kind of help finish off that glue and that thread finish to make sure it gives it a nice even coat and everything looks nice. And then onto kind of the component pieces. It came with 3 sets of the handle assembly. So this includes the cork butts, this includes the, I think these are a graphite reel seat. Yep, so the reel seats are a graphite nylon composite material. So it has the main, like the fighting butt portion, and then it has the reel seat, and then it has really the top that finishes it off, and that's cork as well. It has the ice rod mounting tube, so essentially you can build your entire reel component on this tube, and then actually run the tube onto the ice blank and glue the tube onto the ice blank. So it's like almost like another little blank itself, and then your actual rod blank fits inside of that, and that just allows for less flexibility. This is a very rigid tube, so you mount all of your handle stuff to that, and then obviously like the winding checks, things of that nature to make sure it has a nice finish. And then the second bag of equipment inside of it is all of your glues. It's got your thread scissors, it's got some paint brushes, it's got your China marker, it's got some tape, it's got a ruler, and some very basic thread colors. This one came with silver, gold, a green, a red, and a blue. They're all kind of like a matte finish except for the silver and the gold. Those are more of a metallic thread. Some razor blades, and then obviously like your pro paste, things of that nature to glue all of your cork and your handles and stuff down. In conjunction with your handle material, you get different size of reams so that you can ream out the cork, make sure that it's going to fit everything that you need nicely. And then kind of the important part is your rod blanks. So this kit actually comes with 3 rod blanks, and while eventually I really want to get into some higher end product, I want to get some very nice blanks, some nice cork, some really nice guides like the recoil guides, things of that nature. This kit to me seemed like a very easy starting place, and the fact that you get 3 rod blanks to start off with, you know, in case you're like me and you're entirely new at this and you're going to probably mess up a few things, you got a couple extras. But the blanks themselves are nice. There are 3. They have a lime green, like very top tip of the rod. Again, just for that visual for ice fishing, visualizing the bite, I guess. But here is essentially one of the pamphlets that came with it. And there, like I said, there are 3 rod blanks. There is a 26-inch power noodle blank, which is a 26-inch ultralight fiberglass blank. There is a 28-inch solid carbon blank, but again, it is a 28 ultralight, but it is solid carbon. And then there is a 32-inch, what they're calling a quiver stick blank. So a 32 ultralight is also a carbon blank. So the fact that all 3 were kind of an ultralight, I wasn't overly excited about, but I think they will be great just to get on the ice, do a little fishing with the rod that you made yourself. I think they'll be great for my kid. He's loving to go out more and more. Hopefully he won't be snapping the rods in half on some big catfish like he was last year. But I think it's a great starting point. And like I said, once we get a couple of these under my belt, I will be able to buy some nicer components, feeling confident in my abilities and try to put some nicer rods together as well. All right, so goal for the rest of the video is to get this equipment set up on the workbench here, and we're gonna try to get our first rod started. So by the end of today, I would really like to have the handle assembly, this full handle assembly, installed onto that mounting tube, and then get the mounting tube onto our first blank. So I think that should be a good point for today's video. And like I said, this will be a series, so hit that subscribe button, follow along, and you will see these progress, and hopefully we will get them out on the ice very soon. All right, guys, so as you can see, I've got everything kind of set out. We really don't even need the equipment today just to get this reel handle done, but we will need it for our next video when we start moving on to the guides. The other thing that I have done is I've laid out all the components that I'm going to need today, and I decided that I'm actually going to go ahead and start with the 28-inch ultralight instead of the 24, 26, whatever it was. Yeah, 26-inch power noodle, the fiberglass one. I'm going to start with this 28-inch one because as I was looking at them, the rod handle mounting tube that they send doesn't actually work on the fiberglass blank. The fiberglass blank is way too big for this to work. It does work on the carbon ones, however. So I'm going to start with one of these so that I can utilize this and just see if there is a larger mounting tube that I need, or if I can just go ahead and mount the components to that fiberglass blank, which I'm guessing you probably can. It may take a little bit more with like some arbors and stuff, but I just want to make sure that everything is going to fit the way that I want it. So without having to question it, we are going to start with this one. First thing that we need to do is find the spine of the rod. And again, I don't know how much that is affected in a fiberglass blank versus a carbon blank, but this one we should be able to tell pretty quick where the spine is, or if it has more than one spine. Obviously, just trying to pick the stronger of the two, I believe, is kind of the way it works. So I have put a piece of masking tape on here from the kit as just kind of a flag to watch it spin around, see where we kind of hit that tough point, and then hopefully it'll snap into place. And that is where we will take our China marker and mark the spine of the rod. So I'm just going to put it into the smooth plastic little piece right here so you guys can kind of see the spinning around. We're going to do this under tension, so I have just my fingertip up at the very tip of this rod, and we're going to kind of flex it inward. And I'm going to try and be careful because it feels like I'm going to break it. But you can see where that piece of tape is. It's kind of going down, and I'm just going to try and start spinning it here. And it should, there, it snapped in place. So there's kind of one spine right there. You can kind of feel it. You guys can kind of see it. You might even be able to hear it if I'm quiet enough, but it definitely just kind of whips around right here. So here we go. There, it kicked into place. So I'm going to keep going around and see if it gets real tight right there. Yeah, it spun around there too. So this might be kind of like a double spine. That one feels lighter than this one. This one kind of really locks in right here. Yeah, where that kicks in. So I'm going to consider this my natural spine with this tape kind of facing down. So there's definitely one here, but that one definitely kicks over real hard. So I'm going to consider this my spine. And it is essentially just with this piece of tape facing straight down. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to take my China marker, and we're just going to mark a big section here. So if you can see it, I've just got a big white indicator as to where that spine is now with that tape facing down. So we are ready to start this handle assembly. And part of that process is going to be the reaming process. So you can see the cork comes with a very small diameter hole. I believe it's about 1/8 of an inch. And our rod mount, or our handle mounting tube, is roughly 1/4 of an inch. So that's where these reamers come in handy. And you can see I've kind of started the process here. I wasn't sure how hard this would be, but it's actually fairly easy. So you kind of just put it inside the cork and do some light work, just real light twisting. And that sandpaper will essentially just scrape off some of the excess cork. And just make sure to tap out the extra. And as you go, check the fit and make sure that the cork is the way you want it. Now, you can kind of see where the cork kind of scrapes away, especially at the very beginning. It looks like there's some extra that kind of scrapes away. And that should be okay, especially with our winding checks and getting this, the actual reel seat on here. Should cover all that up. And you can kind of see how large that reel seat is in comparison to our handle mounting tube. So that's where those arbors are going to come into play. And on their website for Mudhole, it did say that they typically put a foam arbor in their reel seats. And I did not find one in any of the three that I got. So we're going to have to make a tape arbor for ours. Just kind of nice and slow, start making that hole just a little bit larger, and it should be a fairly easy process. So I'm using the extra small reamer that came with the kit, and just kind of making sure that it's trying to go in a straight line here, and just kind of working its way out, tapping out the extra, and then again kind of going back in there. So it all looks okay, and then just check the fit, and so you can see kind of scrapes away a little bit of the excess or the extra, especially around the openings, but we'll fill that with Pro Paste, and then the winding checks should sit right on top of that, and then the thread. So that should all be just fine. All right, so I need to mark where the end of this is with that China marker. So I'm going to go down and just make a little bit of a mark here. So put a mark on the end of that because we are going to have to cut this handle mounting tube. So we're going to have to cut it off. And I don't want any sticking out. So I'm actually going to cut it probably 1/8 of an inch or so underneath. So go ahead and cut this off right there. All right, so I went ahead and made that cut, and I'm going to dry fit again just one more time. Make sure that that is where we want it. And that is perfect. So just inside that piece of cork is where we needed that. So we are ready to start gluing this all together. So with our Pro Paste, again, it is a 2-part. Part A is your resin, Part B is your hardener, and it says to mix equal parts by volume. So we're going to kind of approximate that. I want to make sure that I have enough made up here so that, you know, having a little excess is okay, but I don't have to go back and make some more if it's just not quite enough. With this China marker, I'm going to kind of mark off. So our reel seat starts there and it ends up here. So I'm going to go ahead and make some arbors throughout here, and I'll probably split this into, that'd be about the halfway point, and then half of that, and then there. So I'll probably put an arbor in each one of these sections, so I'll end up with about 4 arbors. And then the way we make that arbor is we're just going to line up our tape where we want it. So I'm going to put it right in there. And we're basically just going to be going around and building up this tape until we get to that increased diameter for our reel seat, which the foam one would have been a lot nicer, saved a lot of time, but we can build up some tape here and that'll take that movement out, as well as the epoxy will help with that as well. So I'm going to build these up and then I'll come back to you guys once we get the arbors done. And check. Nope, that one slides on just a little bit too loose still. So a couple last wraps of tape here and we should be good to go. Just gonna go around a couple more times here and rip that off and give it a check. There we go, much better. Yeah, that slides on nice. So again, the point of these arbors is just to close the gap. It's really just kind of a space filler is really what it is, so that the components don't really rattle around. So what I did was I just went through and added wraps and wraps of tape all the way around. Checked it as I went. You guys kind of saw that last check. It was a little too loose. So I added a couple more wraps, about 3 more wraps, and it now is a nice tight fit. So you kind of have to work it on there. And that's what we wanted. So there are 4. So once again, I'm just going to kind of dry fit this. I'm going to put on the rear grip, and then our reel seat should go on. Kind of wiggle it on there. Yeah, that's a real nice fit now. And you can see down there. So now there is no wiggling. There's no movement in there. And then we'll get that foregrip on there. And that is perfect. essentially exactly how we wanted it. So we are now ready for the actual epoxy. And the way we're going to do that, I already put the resin in here. So now we got to get equal part of the hardener. And we're going to stir this up real good. That looks like it's about even. So the reel seat, let's go ahead and tape up this reel seat. So I'm going to move this all the way forward. And I'm going to tape up this portion of our reel seat to kind of avoid getting glue in there too much. Okay, and then a nice application to this epoxy. Be nice and generous. Try and work it around here. And there's definitely going to be some extra that works out. That we'll have to clean up a little bit, but needs to be generous so that everything stays on there. And then we're just going to kind of start twisting on that bottom bit of cork. And looking at this, I was going to pull it back off and put that winding check on there, but I don't think we're going to need it at this point, looking at how this is all kind of bunching up. I think this epoxy is going to take care of what I wanted it to. But we don't need that. Some of that excess back in there. Push that back forward. And that ought to be pretty good, just like that. We'll get a little bit of this extra off the cork here. Kind of working that in that way. There we go. That is the rear grip, and it is now time for our reel seat. And I want to make sure that that gets set on the right way. I'm not overly certain that it would matter too much, but I do want to follow the way that the guide is. So it has the screw on portion, or the screw up and down portion, towards the rear. And I don't know that that would make too big of a difference, but I think I'm going to go ahead and match that because I think it makes a clean look. A nice generous amount, and we're going to work it up and down all these arbors and in the gaps. Getting it all the way around. Just like that. Our reel seat, again, just making sure it's screwed up all the way. And we're going to start twisting it down onto those arbors. And that's why we put that tape there. Just kind of help protect it a little bit. Those arbors are nice and tight. And before we get all the way down to that cork, I'm going to take some of this excess off. Just get it right back into our cup. Work it down again over that last arbor. Pulling it through, meet up with the cork. That looks pretty good. And then I can pull that tape, which probably should have made a tab, but easy enough to find. Small piece of paper towel, and just wipe up the couple little spots we got. Seat it on there nice, no wiggling around. Last piece will be our final piece of cork, that foregrip. Final little twist down. Go ahead and clean off that excess. And we should be good to go. And remember, we will go ahead and glue this onto our blank as well. So I'm not going to put any resin into this forward hole or anything. That should all fill in when we actually glue on the blank. Well, I believe we are ready for the final step. So I'm just going to check which of these winding checks I want. And I think I want this larger one as the relatively small diameter. I think that is the one right there that we want. So here's what we need to do. I'm going to essentially just slide this blank in real fast. I just want to do a quick check. And what I'm checking for is to make sure that this logo lines up with our spine mark that we made earlier. So this is going to be a spinning rod, so those two need to line up for our guide placement. And I guess the last thing I'm going to do, put that back in there. I'm going to go ahead and grab that China marker and just make a quick mark. Where it is. There it is. So that I know how far to put this epoxy. So I'm going to go ahead and epoxy up this blank. And again, I'm going to be overly generous, try to be, so that we can get the excess off as it pushes into that rod, or that real seat. But I would rather wipe off some excess than not have enough on there. Okay, there's that. We're going to get this into our mounting tube and just start spinning it on, and it's going to spit out some excess. I'm going to take that off as we go. Again, just try to protect some of that cork. Spin it in there. Oh, there's an air bubble. That's good. Means we're getting a pretty good seal on there. It is in, so again, I'm going to make sure that that spine lines up with that logo right there. So here's the logo on that real seat. There's our white spine check. Just do a quick visual there. I think that looks pretty good. Take off some of this excess. But I am going to leave a little bit on there because that winding check will sit nice up against there. Push it on there. Squeeze out the extra. Use a popsicle stick to do that. There we go. And then clean it up. All right, so we are still quite a ways from a finished product here, but we have those initial steps done to really get onto what I believe is the fun part, where we start putting on the guides, we start giving, whatever pattern of thread wrap that we want, picking out colors, things of that nature. And again, guys, this is really kind of my first time going through this process alone. So if you guys have been doing this for a while, please feel free. Leave me a comment, suggestions, whatever you want down in the comments. I take feedback pretty well, even if it's critical feedback, that's fine. So if I'm messing something up, I would rather know. I think, humility or being humble enough to ask for help is great. So if there is a better process for certain things and you guys want to leave those tips in the comments, I definitely read them and I appreciate them. We did get the handle assembly done. So we got the rear cork, we have our real seat, and then our front piece of cork as well. And it all looks really good. So again, I think that additional mounting tube really does add some rigidity to this little blank that we have here. So that is great, and everything is still, even though I've been messing with it a little bit, there we go. That spine is still in line, so I should probably put this down so it can dry. But hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. This is, again, very new to me, but it really does help fill those times between, when we're getting boats off of the water to the time that we're on ice. I think it's a great time to kind of reflect on a season, look at new things that you can learn how to do. You guys know that I've spent a lot of time making soft plastic lures. We got all the stuff to start doing our own lead molds as well. So we started doing swim jigs and Ned rigs and swim bait heads, all kinds of stuff. I love the swim jigs. Those have been a favorite of mine right now because, again, it's one of those things like after you pour it and you get the hooks and the component that you want, going through and picking out skirt colors and making your own custom skirts, and you're throwing things that maybe the fish haven't seen before because it is kind of that custom touch. Definitely enjoying that. So if you guys do like these kind of like DIY videos where we're either pouring our own lead and making swim jigs, things of that nature, or making our own soft plastics, or in this case building custom ice fishing rods or custom rods in general, I do hope you guys will consider subscribing. I do appreciate the support. So if you take that second to give it a thumbs up or drop me a comment, leave me a little bit of feedback, I do appreciate it, and I try to get back to you guys as much as possible. Just a reminder, give us a follow, Snapchat, Instagram. It will all be linked in the description below. I love interacting with you guys, and I will hopefully see you guys back for part 2 where we start looking at putting guides on this rod, what kind of thread we're going to be using, what the color pattern looks like, and working through that for the first time. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.